What is up, my viewers? Spang here, bringing you a World of Tanks gameplay commentary. This is the first of the 9.9 replays, and it is a viewer submission from Bondar007 and his WZ-131. And if you might notice a few things right off the bat, right? So there was a delay when this actually was able to be recorded, and you'll notice a little gap in videos on my channel when I said I want to upload a video every day in 2016. Well, technical issues happened, and I basically had to wipe my 9.9 client of all sorts of different things. I actually found some pretty helpful tutorials online about just getting different client versions to work, so it should resolve some of the issues I've been having in the past. But regardless of that, he does do auto-aim. I'm a little sad that I don't have my Unreal Tournament sound pack mod or any of the damage calculating mods or any of that fun stuff to provide me that additional information, but I am still more than capable of giving a commentary. It looks like the new, whatever you want to call it, the something Panzer 1 Charlie, I just call it the Spick, which I'm not racist. I'm just saying what it spells out. It's a German vehicle. No racism intended at all. Anyway, socially awkward moment over with. Let's just suppress that and move forward. Very good vehicle for this light tank. It does have scout matchmaking, but this is as ideal as you can get for this vehicle. Minimum number of tier 8 vehicles per team, and being a tier 7 scout tank, light tank with scout matchmaking. Yeah, and the WZ-131, a very solid light tank. Pretty well performing one. Some would argue maybe that the M41 Walker Bulldog is better. Could be. I have not driven that vehicle yet. In fact, I haven't driven this vehicle either. But we are going to see a lot more of it. Bondar has submitted a few replays with this vehicle. And I'd even see what the map is. It is, well, if you could not figure it out, it's Fiery Salient, which is a variant of Prokhorovka. Not too different in any significant sense. Looks like his commander does get knocked out, and it is an encounter battle, which I definitely agree with those types of battles more than Assault. Assault typically favors the defending team, not always, but more often than not. Looks like Bondar is asking for help in dealing with that vehicle, and right now, teams more or less even. We don't have that hit point counter, again, because we don't have that mod installed. We don't have any of our mods, and I do use Solo's mod pack, but it's a useful piece of information to have when assessing a match, but not necessary. So this is pretty much going to be vanilla client all through 9.9. I've got a couple of my own replays to show you as well, but a lot of viewer submitted ones, a lot from Bondar, and then a few from a couple others. And that's pretty much how we're going to move on forward through this. So, a lot of scout tanks for both teams, but a lot of tanks with scout matchmaking, and each team has a SP1C. And the Type 62 and everything, all the medium tanks and light tanks are kind of just rolling on the hills, trying to be what I call dolphin scouting, more or less. It's just kind of like where you're peeking up over and then going back down. It's almost like a dolphin riding the waves. The hill. Let's take a look at that hill. Zero line, completely overrun for Bondar's team. Nothing is over there anymore. I don't know if anything ever was. I didn't really pay attention to what those two vehicles on his team did. It does look like one of them died over on the other side of the tracks, and nothing looks like it went to hill. I can't quite place where that other dead vehicle is. Possibly, yep, right over there. So his team pretty much gave up that hill right from the start. Not quite sure I agree with that decision, because it is an encounter battle, and that hill provides a pretty strategic overwatch position on the base location. He is spotted, but to really no consequence here. He's going to get some free shots off, barely peeking his turret over, which is, despite being not too heavily armored due to its angling, occasionally reliable in bouncing shots. So right now his team is winning the tank advantage war and will continue to be ahead in terms of that. And wow, I'm just noticing a pretty good FPS increase on my laptop here. Maybe I might bump up my FPS for these replays, despite it being on the laptop. Due to the mods being uninstalled, they do take their impact, they do have a toll, but we shall see what progresses in 9.9 as I continue to do these commentaries. Regardless, the KV-3 looking like he will get pegged by Artie and Bondar's team, raking in some more damage, raking in some more kills. 7-7, however, this is a very close battle. Bondar doing what he can to address the threat of those heavy tanks on the hill. Well, trying to avoid taking unnecessary damage and certainly using his tank's mobility to that effect. Excuse me. The KV-3 eliminating the friendly ARL and possibly a tight position here. The SB-1C not doing too hot for himself, nearly dead. Although he is way in the back, will get a kill. No, I'm sorry, that's the enemy SB-1C getting killed. The T-3485 getting that kill, and the SU-152, the 152. Definitely a derp gun to be feared. Easily killing Bondar here in one shot if he gets the chance, and yes, he certainly has that derp gun. I saw that peek over that hill. But at these distances, I don't think Bondar is too concerned taking the shot at that KV-3. He is firing heat, or at least at the very least, he just switched to heat. But I would not be surprised if that was a heat round lobbed out before that, because it didn't do much when it hit the side of the tracks. Right now, average penetration for AP is 159. Heat is 230. The downside to heat is it is just unreliable when shooting into spaced armor, shooting into tracks which function like spaced armor. And it looks like I don't even know how to say that KV-3's name, and I'm not going to try. He's going to take a side shot, aim more for the turret superstructure, and get that penetration he was so denied earlier. Bondar's team doing a pretty good job of wrapping up the rest of the enemy forces to the north and really securing this side of the tracks quite effectively. Looking like possibly trying to get a flank, and also just, ooh, there's a little FPS drop. I'm not sure if that was on my end or Bondar's in-game, because there are two different FPS counters here. One indicating mine and one indicating the actual game. And Bondar's is lower, the actual game is a bit lower. Although I'm not 100% sure on those FPS counters. But he does manage to find an enemy vehicle. He does get a full circle and kill. The Chi-Ri coming in to take that kill away. But Bondar, again, using this scout tanks, this light tanks effect, you know, its mobility to great effectiveness. Looking like that KV-3 getting unspotted rather quickly. Kind of surprising there, despite the T-71 running in and getting on that capture circle. I'm kind of curious how that KV-3 just managed to disappear. And there he is in the bushes. Can't tell if his gun is pointing towards Bondar. It was kind of, but the KV-3 had a very clear and easy shot. Not quite sure why he didn't take it. He might be out of ammo. He might have his loader damaged, or he might be a bot. But I don't think he's a bot. He is playing a bit more intelligently. If it is a bot, he's certainly more well programmed than your average system, your average botter. And the SU-152, the derp cannon, the derp TD, just sitting over there trying to address the T-3485, which he is more than capable of killing if it was not for the sheer overwhelming number of tanks around him. If it is one-on-one, he might have had a chance, but otherwise he did not have a snowball's chance in hell. And now Bondar going for the final kill on that artillery, the M40-43, right? Yes, M40, M43. Okay, close enough in its name. You know, semantics, it really doesn't matter unless you're one of those people who are incredibly OCD about calling a tank by its proper designation. The derp missing, and the 40-43 surrenders to its fate. Doesn't even try to wiggle around, doesn't try to do anything. He recognizes that it's all but over with, and that's going to wrap it up. So we're going to quickly go to those post-game stats. Bondar being a good sport, saying GG. It was a fairly well-fought battle, so I don't fault him for saying that. Alright, important lesson learned about these 9.9 replays. I do not get a back to the garage / and replay option. It automatically closes the window for me, so if I got cut off a little, apologies for that. But he did get Mastery Badge Ace Tanker here, just going right into a Confederate and High Caliber. Got a few ribbons and pins for his shovel as well. Spotter, Fire for Effect, and Bruiser. Team Rack and Stack. Wow. Nearly 3,000 hit points worth of damage. Looks like his artillery piece, due to that excess amount of spotting, was able to get quite a bit of damage as well. The T-71, again, a tier 7 light tank with scout matchmaking. Everyone, okay, I'm not going to obsess about that. A lot of people in the game refer to the light tanks with scout matchmaking as scout tanks. And for future reference, that is what I will call them. So I don't have to keep doing this whole thing. Anyway, the T-71 scout tank, doing quite well for himself. I drove that vehicle. I have the T-57. I'm at the end of that line. I did enjoy the T-71. In fact, I kept it. Haven't driven it in a long time. not quite sure how good it still is. 9.9 actually did introduce, obviously, the SP1C, which for Bondar's team is... where? I know I saw one. There he is. There he is. Didn't do much, unfortunately. The enemy one, however, did a little bit better. I do have a replay of me driving mine shortly after taking it out of the garage, and you will, well, you'll see how well I actually play that vehicle, but that is not until later. The highest performing vehicle for the enemy team being that AMX M4, and I don't know what the MLE stands for. I assume it's the French version of model, probably 45. So I'm guessing that's the year it was manufactured. But not important. Not important at all. I am kind of curious in terms of... So he did actually get a better than 50% hit rate. That's pretty good for Artie. The 40-43 and the 50-53 are pretty well known for their accuracy. But overall, Bondar's team doing pretty well for itself. The enemy team having a pretty good damage distribution. And more or less, it was a well-fought battle. I think those tanks on the hill were kind of hoping more to find an enemy force to fight. And when they discovered there weren't really any tanks over there, they found themselves struggling to really contribute to their team. So it wasn't necessarily their fault that Bondar's team decided to send nothing to the hill. In fact, I would say that's rather unexpected. And sometimes the unexpected is what wins you the match. And I think that was a pretty good factor in this match. I think the enemy team was set up to really control the capture zone and control that hill. And Bondar's team just never prioritized it and said, screw that, we're going to dominate the fields and play this like a normal battle. They didn't even play it like a normal battle. So, I mean, just the wonky way Bondar's team kind of went out on the map really did throw the enemy team for a loop. But overall, 26 shots fired, 21 direct hits, and 16 penetrations. Not a terribly great ratio. And damage being quite a bit, only a little bit from a distance of over 300 meters, but then, oh my goodness, then we have damage due to player's assistance. That spotting damage, though, over 3,100. The eyes of his team, just so much spotting. Yeah, just everything. In fact, kind of surprising. He got a lot of spotting damage, but not a lot of first lights on enemy vehicles. So that is why he did not get the scout medal. But I think... I don't know. Do you guys agree with me on this? I think maybe the scout medal should be a combination or an either or. Like, if you get so much spotting damage, maybe you should get a scout medal. I don't know. I feel like there should be an award for that. But, or no, there is. There is. I can't remember what it is, but kind of surprising he didn't get it. But I do think you have to be responsible for the death of an enemy vehicle as well. I'll have to look into that. I know I've gotten it before as like a T110E5, and I don't know if Wargaming retired that medal, and I'm sure at this point someone's probably correcting me in the comments anyway, so it's probably not a huge big deal. But anyway, that's about going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed this video, even with me tripping over my tongue, please hit that like button. There we go. If you want to see more, subscribe, and if you have anything you want to share or suggest, comment section. And if you got a replay you want me to do a commentary on, maybe when I'm a little bit more coherent? I don't know. We can all hope and dream. Description below has instructions for that. And until next time, this has been Spang, and clearly I'm just oh so professional. MLG Dynamo!